Well, I'm Chevy Humphrey, and I'm so excited about being here today. And we have a stellar panel, and we went through a practice run, but I go rogue a lot, so get ready. I actually came from Arizona 4.5 years ago, and there was a woman who had an impact because I told her no 4 times, and she didn't give up. Her name is Allison Ranney, and she sat right in front of me. And I'd been at the institution for 23.5 years. I was the first Black American to ever run a science museum in the United States. And I just was like, I've got it good here. I don't know why. And I said, there are other people that are so deserving. And Allison got me on the phone as a leader and said, look, every professional, specifically man, has applied for this job. They're calling you. Wake up and take the call. Didn't you say that? And that's what we're going to be talking about today, that confidence and that ability to really look inside to say, I can do this, and have people that are going to help you and lift you up to actually make that difference and make a change. So I know there's someone in your life that has been like that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'd like to invite our panelists to come up. Come on up. I'll introduce each one of you. All right. And then I also want them to talk a little bit about themselves. I'll let you sit down for a minute. Okay. So, Chancellor Miranda, can you tell us more? Wait, I actually am going rogue right now. I heard you have a bee farm. You didn't say that in the talk. So can you tell a little bit about your background and then tell us about the bee thing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
So I'm Lynn Miranda. I'm the Chancellor at the University of Illinois, Chicago. My faculty appointments are in pediatrics and mathematics, statistics and computer science. So I've been in STEM my entire professional career, and I'm really excited about being part of this panel, and honored and flattered to be part of the panel. And it is true that I am a beekeeper. It is the one truly interesting thing about me. There's nothing else is interesting, I assure you. And so my husband and I own a small farm in northwest Indiana, about 75 acres, and it's called Orange Belton Sugars because all we produce is sugar. So we produce honey and we produce maple syrup, and I can tell you so many different bee stories. And one of the things that's cool, it's kind of like this room, is a beehive is, well, it's not quite like this room, but a beehive is about 90% female bees. So the female bees are really the communication and the organization of the hive and the productivity of the hive and the decisions about whether to stay in location or swarm elsewhere. It's the female bees who make those decisions, which is kind of cool. But I do also like men.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks for letting me go rogue. Actually, that's what you do when you network. You get to know people, and they tell stories about you.
There you go.
So that was really good, and I got that from someone who's your colleague who told me.
There you go.
Okay. So, Natasha Galavotti, I actually, I love you. You are so amazing.
I love you too.
And please tell everyone about yourself.
Thank you, Chevy, and thank you, Anne, for hosting. And the 4 of us had a call this week, and I think we just had a BFF moment and amazing chemistry, so hopefully you feel that impact as we talk tonight. I'm Natasha. I'm a native Chicagoan, and I'm an executive in manufacturing sector across consumer and industrial segments of business. I am also a former basketball player. I played Division I at the University of Pennsylvania and decided to, yes, a fellow alum with Dee here in the audience, and I wanted to play overseas, and I did just that. But the WNBA was not born yet. And so I had a lot of loans from Penn to pay back, and I wasn't able to necessarily make a living by doing that, and I was far away from my family. So I went into business school and continued a career into corporate. And I hope we talk about many of the themes that sports have given me in my life: confidence, effective coaching, teamwork, performance, because I am so indebted to being an athlete and just the benefits that's had throughout my life and career. I'm so pleased to be here, and thanks for joining us.
And our solo, most important man on our panel, Awvee Storey. Tell us about yourself. We just fell in love with you, seriously. And the stories, and I'm going to pull out things that weren't in the script that you told that were so inspiring when we had our talk. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Awvee Storey. I'm the executive director of the Chicago Sky Foundation. The one thing that just came up just being in this room, I actually wish my daughter was here right now. She just got back from Spain. She was in Madrid for over a month for an exchange experience and absolutely loved it. She had an incredible experience. I really wish she was here right now, just to be able to see what you women and what this panel stands for. One of the things that came up in our conversation that we had was the WNBA bubble. So during COVID, I was with another team, and that was Connecticut Sun. And by the way, I've coached in the WNBA for 14 years. And my daughter was there with me. And Avery, I get emotional sometimes thinking of it and talking of it, because what those women did for her, something that her mother or I could never have given her. This girl would call me in our apartment that we had in the bubble and would say, "Dad, can I come? I'm going to stay out with the players a little bit longer." And I'm looking at my phone and my watch, and I'm like, "It's 11 o'clock. And she would, again, we was in a bubble. Everything is protected by, outside interference. And I trusted every one of these women. And they trusted her in a way that was pretty incredible. So I say all of that to bring it back to just say, and I appreciate you saying that on our call, too. I am an advocate of women's sports and women support, period. I'm here to support all the things that we do around our foundation and what we do as an organization, and supporting women supporting women in different spaces. It doesn't have to be definitely just basketball, which majority of you actually raise your hand and all play basketball, which is surprising to see, but really an honor to sit up here and to really be in front of you all. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with you, Awvee, and I'm not going to go in line with these questions. But you coached men and you coached women. I want you to tell them the story you told us in that talk about the difference and the vulnerability and, how you felt helping both.
Yeah. It was really, so I played in the NBA. My NBA team was the Milwaukee Bucks. But I was overseas for a little bit too, and then I came back, and DC was home for me. And I started out with the Wizards doing player development. Again, I was home trying to figure out what's next, and opportunity came up, worked with the Wizards, and an opportunity opened up on the women's side, the Washington Mystics. And I said to myself, okay, this is what I'm about to do. And I tried it out. And it went from 1 year to 5, 6 years with the Mystics. And then from that, I went to, I came here with Chicago for a year. And then after that, I had an opportunity to go back to the NBA side, the NBA G League. And that was my first eye-opening experience, and that was with the Boston Celtics G League team. And I knew right then and there I wanted to stay on the W side. Like, I knew it. I felt it. What came up for me and what was the biggest thing that was the eye-opener for me on the – come on in, guys. You all good, please. No. Oh, all good. No worries. One of the biggest things that was an eye-opener for me, and as I'm just talking about my daughter, being in front of and working with the women that I work with, it allowed me to touch a place that I never was really comfortable going is being vulnerable. Speaking to things that I was uncomfortable talking about, speaking to things that I wasn't sure if I was comfortable enough to even think that it was appropriate to even say out loud, outside of my own thoughts. And then getting to the NBA side with the Celtics and then the Wizards, I knew this is the W is where I wanted to stay. But I knew it was important to me to be on the men's side, to speak to them and let them know what we do and how we handle ourselves is not okay. And I'm going to say this. So we had a situation, not a situation, but in the way that we talk sometimes, and they kept saying some words that was just uncomfortable, and I knew it. And then I said to the guys one day, and I said, you know what, guys? What you're saying is offending me. They said the word F word, gay word, but and I was completely offended. It just took too many times, and I was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I said to them all, hey, guys, I'm gay, which I'm not, which is okay if you are. But I said that to them, and they just stopped. Everybody just shocked, just the way you guys all just looked at me. And my point in doing that was to really get them to understand what you say offends people, and you don't know who people and how people feel when things come out your mouth in the way that they do. And from that, my GM called me, Awvee, what the heck is going on? Everything good? Everything was fine, but that set the standard and stage for them to understand what you say and how you say it and who's the people around you affects people. And that season ended up being a really good season. We were doing pretty good anyway, but it changed in the tone and the way that the guys would talk to each other, and definitely around me. And I say that story, and I had to say that because, again, being on the women's side really has allowed me to really step into somebody that I had no clue that I could potentially be. And where I am now with this foundation and with this organization is allowing me to step more and more into that. And I'm really grateful for it, so thank you.
Thanks for telling that story.
Bringing that out.
I know. I wanted to get that out because it was so emotional and it so connected us, and we all became BFFs after that. And so I wanted everyone to hear that story because it takes a lot of courage to actually talk about those things. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going off script again. So, Chancellor Miranda, tell me about, have you ever had to persuade a student player to rise to their full potential and talk them out of giving up? And what made the difference?
So when I was on the faculty at Duke, I had an undergraduate advisee by the name of Georgia Schweitzer. And she played on the women's basketball team, and I advised her throughout her time. And the whole time she was an undergraduate, she talked about wanting to become a doctor, that she was going to go and play professional basketball for a while, and then she was going to become a doctor. And she graduated. She went and played for the Minnesota Lynx. That's when, shortly thereafter, is when 9/11 happened. And so playing in Europe kind of dissolved, and she was sort of at a loss for, what she was going to do, et cetera. And, there were a lot of young people who sort of lost their belief in the world at that time. It was an interesting time to be a professor. And she came to me one day, having told me for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, that she really wanted to be a doctor. She came to me and said, I've decided I don't want to be a doctor. I'm wondering if you would write me a recommendation for this other kind of school that she was thinking about going to. I looked at her and I said, I'll write you a letter of recommendation for wherever you want to apply. But our relationship over the past 6 years or so has been, my, trying to give as much as I can to you. And right now, I want you to give something to me. And she said, what's that? And I said, well, I want you to go and shadow a doctor in the hospital for a month. And I'll arrange it. I'll make it happen this afternoon. And you go shadow for a month. And if you come back after a month and tell me that you don't want to be a doctor still, then I'll write that letter of recommendation that you're asking me for. And she's like, Dr. M. And I'm like, Georgia, I haven't ever asked you for anything. And she's like, all right. So I immediately got on the phone, got her a shadowing opportunity. She goes over, and I told her, I don't want to see you for a month. You have to do it for a month. And Like a week later, she shows up at my office door. And I looked at her and I said, Georgia, I told you had to do it for a month. It's only been a week. And she's like, Dr. M, I don't need a month. I want to be a doctor. And she went to medical school. She decided to become a surgeon. She is now an attending surgeon at Duke University. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a complete full circle moment, when my youngest child went to Duke as an undergraduate, Georgia became her mentor, wrote one of my daughter's letters of recommendation for medical school, and now my daughter's in medical school. So,
Yeah.
cool.
That's amazing. That's a great story. So, Natasha, it's like
I knew it was coming to you.
I know. You've persevered and gone all the way. What is unique about women who do this? And tell us a story about how you persevered and gotten to where you are.
I'm inspired by Awvee and Lynn's experiences and examples, and I think everybody in this room has one. And when I was in business school, does this come out? Can everybody hear me? Okay. When I was in business school, I was sharing with a professor, a male professor, that I was going into the manufacturing and supply chain sector. And he said, well, that's interesting. You know, you have a business background. And I said, yeah, I'll be working a lot with engineers. And he said, yes, you're going to work with engineers. And I said, well, you know, any advice or perspective? He said, you know how to talk to engineers. You may not be a technical person, but they need you as a business mind to be able to sell their ideas. And so that was a very pivotal moment for me, that sometimes those hard subjects, those very technical matters, it's the softer piece or the sales side that really makes something come to fruition. He didn't have to say that. I've been a student for a semester or two, but that was very pivotal for me to take into the business world, and for the next 8 years in a very male-dominated sector, be able to go with some very leading technical minds as more of a commercial mind. I think, Chevy, there's also part of your question, you know, the correlation of being an athlete and how that translated into my experiences across the C-suite. And it really comes back to, as athletes, which we're going to see on the court tonight, the practice and the desire and the determination. And I knew very early as a player, I really wanted to be the very, very best player I could be. And I put my hand up to be there early in the morning at practice and stay late and work reps and take all sorts of things that maybe not everybody wanted to. And as we find ourselves in our careers, it's really a choice, is how much do we put into it? And so I think, Chevy, there's a component of desire and how much we really want to go after something, and whether we're willing to do the difficult to go after it. So Awvee and I walked in this afternoon together, and we shared our stories a little bit more intimately. And you know, you said, well, you know, tell me about your background in basketball. I said, I don't think there's a day I don't think about sports or basketball. It's just, what is that crossing over that memory you have, because it's an amazing sport. It's teamwork, it's practice, and it's ultimately leadership. So it's with me all the time. And we connected on basketball as well, and your background, and it's just a wonderful thing, I think, for girls in particular to understand the teamwork, the resilience, and the leadership that you can get from a sport and how it translates into business.
And when you have to do the work, and it's really, really important to have the people around you who help you remember why it's worth it to do that work. So that team atmosphere, that sort of collaborative way of moving a whole group forward, whether you're doing it in business or you're doing it on the court.
So I'm going to ask all three of you, how does belonging play in whether a young woman stays or goes? In STEM, in sports? I'd love to hear your perspective on that. Awvee, we'll start with you.
Yeah, belonging is, I look at that a couple of different ways. The people around you on that team, so I think of it as in the sports related, just thinking about basketball. I remember clearly a few players on the WNBA side, including myself, even going back that far, questioning if you even belong there. And I know every one of you in here have questioned yourself, do you belong? It's that inside desire that you have within that know that you belong, and then you have those moments where you question it, and that's the most important part, the people around you. Being a coach in the W, being a father, it's really important to find the times to really stick with a narrative that you can probably have with them, with the players. I've had so many vulnerable moments with my daughter. We just had one just last night when she's been back, and then players thinking about that. I think it's really important to just allow organic conversations to happen and always get back to that very important part of just letting them know how confident that you believe in them, and then knowing that they can do just about anything they want and put the work in. I tell that to my daughter all the time. And then just thinking about the players. Now that they're chartered, it's a little hard, but not really, because when they wasn't chartered and we were at the airports flying commercial, we'd sit right next to them on the airplane, before the flight take off, just waiting, and you just have those very vulnerable conversations about their lives and getting to know them personally, and you realize how similar of a lifestyle that you've had with them, and then those are the touch points to the reminder that you belong. You really belong in this space, and that's something that I really, really stone-heartedly believe. Even when players do get cut, I got cut so many times. How many in here got fired, or let go, or thought to leave a job, and then you found yourself? I think all of that stuff matters, and it's just really important just to find those moments where you can really speak to that player or that person about how much it's important for them to believe in themselves and know that you got their back as well.
I think any person that belongs to a team, whether you're on the court, the field, whether you're on the bench or coach, whether you're the trainer, that sense that the maybe more performing players or those that are on the sidelines, that's a really important component of performance, because it creates the positive environment and energy. And so that, whether it's the sports world or whether it's the business world, everybody has a role. And I think it's the role of coaches, effective coaching, and leaders to point out what everyone brings to the table. Sometimes when it's a tight game and you just see that look on the bench from somebody who just says, you got this shot, or do this, or just the observation and the help. That's all part of the culture of winning and progressing. And there are losses too. So you belong together in your wins, you belong together in your losses. But that is a very, very powerful emotion that brings people together to be the best that they can be.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience working with young people as an advisor to them. So my degree is in mathematics, and I'm a quantitative person, and I love mathematics. My brother-in-law once asked me, I'm very bad at cornhole. He once asked me, how do you live with yourself being this bad at cornhole? And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm just really good at math. My husband put his arm around me and goes, she is really good at math. But anyway, it was really striking to me. I had a lot of advisees, and when people take mathematics, there was a particular course which is very, very hard. Of all the courses I took when I was a math major, it was the hardest course. And the young men would come in and they would say, whew, Dr. M, that was a hard course. That was a really hard course. And the young women would come in and they would say, I thought I was good at math, and it turns out I'm not. And it was just heartbreaking to me. And I started having these, conversations with these young women about, and my children have heard me say this many, many times, and my students have heard me say this, and now my, leadership team at the university, sometimes the reason that things seem hard is because they actually are hard. And so what we have to figure out when the situation actually is hard, what do you have to build up for yourself within yourself, and what do you have to build up around you to make it possible for you to get through that hard, whether it's a professional hard or a personal hard, whatever the case might be. And I think riffing a little bit off of what Natasha said, when we have our team, when we have our tribe, when we have the people who are leaning in to help us out when we need that help, and the people who we know we will lean in anytime they need us, we've built that team around us, whether it's an actual sports team, or for me, I have a team all the time, my research team, right? I also have a team around me of leaders at the university, and sort of establishing what our values are, how we're going to operate as a team, how we're going to communicate as a team, how we're going to support each other as a team, and how we're going to be clear about our mission and going forward. And when things are really, really hard, remembering that sometimes the reason things seem hard is because they actually are hard. And so in the middle of all of that, we built some new pathways for young women to help them get into study groups together, to be in teams together. And then slowly but surely, as we implemented this, the young women would come after that class and say, whew, that was a really hard class. And that was the very best thing to hear, that they had changed their mindset and changed the way that they allowed that course to affect them.
Well, speaking on that, I'm going to have you talk a little bit more. Tell us about being a manager with Coach K. This falls right in line to that experience. I remember that story, and I'd love for you to tell that story to everyone.
Yeah, so when I went to Duke as an undergraduate, and I worked for the men's basketball team. I was a manager, so I worked for Coach K. I've known Coach K for 40 years. And the thing about Coach K is, like, once you're part of the Duke basketball family, you are forever in the Duke basketball family with him. You can call him up and ask his advice about things, as I have periodically. You can ask him to come to your campus and be a featured speaker and bring in people from all over Chicago to come hear him. So that was really wonderful this past spring. That's Natasha was there. But there's this interesting story. It's about belonging, and it's about standards. So Coach K was always very clear about the fact that he didn't like rules. What he liked was standards, because rules, like, people can mess around. Well, this isn't quite breaking the rule, but standards are about, like, what are we expecting from each other about how to behave. So it was December, it was finals week. I had a big final the next day, and a couple of the managers weren't even there because they were actually in finals. And I'm at the bench, I'm in charge of the bench during halftime, and I'm kind of sitting in the bench like this, like
She did that on Zoom.
Super sloppy. And I'm tired because it's finals week, and I've got a big exam tomorrow, and we're down 2 managers, and you know, Coach K was never the first person out of the locker room. It was always the players who came out first. So I figured, like, the players would come out, I'd hear that squeaking of the shoes, and then I could stand up. But like a ninja out of nowhere, he appears, and he's standing right next to me, and he looks at me and he goes, "Miranda, you're looking pretty sloppy on our bench." And it was such an interesting thing because, first of all, he didn't tell me I broke a rule. He told me there was a standard for somebody who's sitting on that bench, and I wasn't meeting that standard. And at the same time, with the particular use of language, he told me I was part of the team, and it was therefore important to me to meet those standards. So in the same way, at the same moment that he's kind of correcting me and bringing me up to that standard that he's expecting for the whole team, he's embracing me and telling me, you are part of the team. And I think you can learn so much about how to be supportive of people and to help people along if you think about what are the standards we expect and how do we help people get to those standards. It's not helpful to people to just say, everything is fantastic with every single thing you do all the time. If there are problems or areas for improvement, you know, you have to communicate that, but you have to communicate that in a way that feels positive and supportive and feels that so that the person feels like you want them to grow and be supportive, and you think of them as being on a team together with you. So you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from a lot of situations, but let me just advise you, never slouch on a bench when Coach K is around.
So, Natasha, if you could go back and coach your younger self at a pivotal time in your career and your crossroads of your career, what would you say, and how might it have changed your path?
So I think, you know, as I thought about this, we reap what we sow. And I loved practicing. I loved when nobody was around. I just loved shooting in an empty court and hearing that ball bounce. So that I would do again and again and again. And I would probably get some more of my teammates to say, you know, let's just do this, right? Let's just do that. Whatever the result was in game time, keep practicing. But I think the piece that I didn't fully appreciate about myself is give myself grace. Mm-hmm. Give myself grace for the losses, for the disappointments, for the setbacks. But I did learn that without those setbacks, I don't think in my corporate career that I would have had the resilience. And so I learned grace along the way, and maybe that's just the journey that we have to take. You know, it's going to happen. No matter where we go, what level we're at, we're going to have those setbacks. And so I would say let's remember that wherever we are. Whatever the moment, the challenge, give ourselves grace, because that softening moment is really what builds the strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
So, Awvee, as a coach,
Yes.
and as a leader, and a fierce advocate for women, what is one action that you take today to mentor and support young women to stay in the game?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I really appreciate more now than ever before that I played in the NBA. To your point back earlier, it's a standard that the league and certain teams that I played on and certain guys that I played with, Vince Carter, Alonzo Mourning, Jason Kidd, I mean, I was around some incredible players, Hall of Famers. And what I took from those experiences, I feel it to this day, and it's always going to be something that I'm going to communicate to anyone that I'm working with, and I try to communicate that to my daughter whenever she wants to listen to me. You have the ability, again, like I kind of said earlier, to just do anything and everything that you want. It's so important to find time to listen to your inner self, to drift off in imagination, be in the moment. And these things, like, I was talking to one of the interns yesterday. She's at DePaul, and she has to sit out this year, and back injury, volleyball player. And every time I ask her, how you doing? It's not the most confident, but whenever I come to her, I give her that look that you can do this, like, figure it out. This is a stress fracture. It's built from what and how you think of yourself, and I think you need to change it in everything that you do and think of yourself. And I say it with such conviction and such confidence and such passion, because I strongly believe in how the mind plays some tricks on you if you allow it. And I allow it a lot of times, but I think it's important to remind yourself it's really important that you really stay focused on the important part of what you want to do and accomplish in your life. And I remember, we all remember how young we were and just wasn't sure. but it was times that we were really passionate about something. And I think that's what I keep reminding players and the people that I work with. Follow that one thing that you were so excited and passionate about and find it within the thing that you're doing now. So I don't know. I get really excited about talking to people on some really deep levels and just trying to understand how one thinks, because in those conversations you find out more about yourself. So I hope all that made sense, but I definitely think it's important to have those deep, in-depth conversations, because the superficial ones, you don't really get to understand and know more about a person, and I find that really important to do. So when I've done that with our players, as well as the people that I work with, I find out what makes them tick, and then I try to really step into that and give them confidence behind it.
Thank you. So mentoring is very important, and I believe in the 3 M's. It's mentoring, modeling, and motivating. And, I'd love to hear a story of a time that a mentor motivated you and how you embraced it or how you didn't embrace it, and what'd you learn from it? I know that was like a rogue question.
Mine is short and hopefully sweet. I think I mentioned I grew up here, just went to high school down the street on Roosevelt Road, and I'm 6'1", which at the time, back in the 90s, was like tall, power forward.
I mean, it was, right.
It still kind of is, but not always.
You're still tall to me, Natasha.
And my high school coach, I'd grown up in the alley with brothers and neighbor boys and stuff, playing basketball, just kind of a broken backboard and, hopefully some type of net, that's just, and I was always the last pick to play because it was almost always boys. But when I got that spot, I treasured it. So when this high school coach said, hey, come over here. This is what we're going to do before every practice. We're going to do this many reps, and we're going to do layups. We're going to do mic-ins. A mic-in is like this hook where nobody can really block the shot. And I'm like, mic-in, so find out who George Mikan is. And I'm doing all these reps. And I have to say my teammates were just wonderful. And I'm still in touch with all these gals today. They didn't express any sort of jealousy. They just said, what is she doing over there? And and so before practice, he would say, let's go. And after practice, and they said, why did you do that? I said, I don't know why I said yes. I just went with it. And I think intrinsically, it was the fact that an adult who I respected gave time and attention to me. And that he believed in my potential, and I didn't know it myself. And so what I try to do throughout my career, whether it's it's not always with my kids, because sometimes they need more than their parents in terms of role models, right? But people call you up and they want some time, and we got to give that time back, because we never know. We can't always play basketball with people and do hundreds of reps every single day, but we never know what those few words or that phone call or that impact has. And so I think we're all probably informal mentors without even knowing it. But let's keep doing it, because young girls need it. They need us. They need our experiences. They need our personal stories, and they can do anything. So I'm grateful that was a male coach, but I hope I'm doing my part to be helping people develop their path.
Yeah. Same question?
Yes, please.
I figured you were going to go.
How about you repeat the question again? 'Cause,
No, I know what the question is.
Another question. Okay.
I know what the question is.
I was more
I
supposed
just
speaking
figured
for
there
me,
was going to
but
be more. I figured there's just going to be more going rogue, so I was waiting for more rogue. But
I want the same.
yeah.
Please.
So after I'm going to talk about this at a later point in my career. So I spent 21 years on the faculty at Duke, and then I was recruited to become a dean at the University of Michigan. And at the time, there was a woman there who was the president of the university, Mary Sue Coleman, who is a biochemist. So for me to go to be the dean, it was the dean of the environment school, and have this president who was this really strong, smart female scientist. It was kind of like, this is really wonderful. And she taught me a lot about leadership, about how to lead effectively. One of the things that she told me on a regular basis was one of her strategies was to be relentlessly positive with people, which is not to say, sort of ignore all of the stuff that's going on, but find a way to be positive with people, and even people who are trying really hard to fight you. And it's interesting, right? It's hard for people to fight you when you're being positive back with them. It kind of puts them back on their heels, trying to figure out what's going on. And there's a funny story. So she would have these dinners at her home for the deans and the vice presidents and the board of regents. And I was the dean of the environment school, and there was one regent who did not think that climate change was a real phenomenon. And she seated me next to him every single dinner. Every single dinner, she seated me next to him. And at the end, as I was walking out, she would always say to me, "Did you enjoy your dinner?" Like, yes, President Coleman. But in our various conversations, part of what she was telling me to be relentlessly positive, and she was putting me in this position to be in conversation with someone who believes something that was very, very different from my own beliefs about the scientific evidence. And it made me get a lot better at talking with people that I didn't agree with. And I got better at it because I took her relentlessly positive approach and put that into my conversation. And I'm very happy to say that Mary Sue Coleman has remained an important person in my life, and she's my executive coach now. So lucky me, lucky me.
Okay, Cliff Notes version. Tell us a story about someone who mentored you and changed your trajectory. That was a Cliff Notes version. Remember you told me I had to speak one way to one group and one. Okay, got it. We connected on that, didn't we?
Yeah. So you want me to speak to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. As I mentioned, coaching the W for a while, and then went to the NBA G League. And again, back to the point that I was mentioning a little bit ago about how, not being able to be vulnerable around just period, before you even get into the W. And being able to really speak to that in a way on the W side. Diamond. I just mean so many players that actually was here in Chicago that I remember just having some real special and unique conversations and just learned so much about myself. And then being able to go to the men's side and how much we do not allow ourselves to be vulnerable on the men's side, or just men in general, it's a real thing. And then being able to have some conversations on the men's side that really helped me put myself in positions where I can really help and be inspiring to players. I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Yes, we're about X's and O's and winning games. That's important. It's very important. That's why we're here. But I think it's that much more important to really help them on a spiritual side, manhood, womanhood. I mean, just everything about that is just very important to, I think, makes the player a whole player. And those are the things that I really appreciated the most in my experience coaching. The winning part, yes, important. Seeing them being able to do some things that was in, that they struggled finishing left or whatever the case may be, was a part of all of that. But I really appreciated my time in the W in the coaching part, because I really was able to have not just experiences or opportunities to help them develop, but they helped me develop in so many different ways. That's why I think it's so important. I didn't say this in our call, but I was really intentional about hiring all interns that were women. Like I was so intentional about that. One thing that I wanted to say too, like during my time and still present, still to this day, in these conversations that I have, I think it's very important to be intentional. Being intentional, being direct on what you want and what you're looking for in candidates or in the way that you want to lead. Because again, I've been in spaces where it's all men and we freely just think of it as nothing, or in the way that we carry ourselves, in the way that we think we are entitled to something. And I'm really intentional about our people in our team when I coach and on the staff that I have. Stop saying sorry. What are you sorry for? What? Stop saying that to me. I don't want to hear that. Because you shouldn't be sorry for just standing up for what you believe in and what your opinion is, period. And I learned that in the W, that I saw and I felt, and I just like, nah, I got to change that. So how I be intentional about changing that is by calling out when I see it and I hear it. And just building confidence within each other. And it's been really, really special and really fun. Mentoring, being mentored by people as well, I think it works both ways. It definitely works both ways. It has no other way to exist other than working both ways. But that's kind of where I was going with that in our conversation that we had on our call. But yeah, it's important to really be intentional. And as you guys are in your different spaces, be intentional.
So, what question haven't I asked? And what message would you like to leave our incredible guests today? I'll start with you, Natasha.
I was just looking at the WNBA here, and I just get so happy to look at a female, silhouette with a ball. And my husband's here tonight, and we've just come back from our European vacation, and we were in a store. It's a pretty trendy brand in Europe. I don't know if it's here in the U.S. It's called Bershka, and super cute stuff. And we're pawing around with my daughter, and we see this WNBA shirt, and we bought two. I don't even know what size they are. I just grabbed them. I probably should have grabbed one. I wish I could have grabbed one for everybody in this room. It had all the teams. I mean, to think about that even 5 years ago, no way. 20 years ago, forget it. And so I think whatever we can do to support women's sports, because we're going to see wonderful performance tonight. Hopefully the W is on our side with the Sky, but irrespective of that, we're going to see a level of talent that's just going to get better and better. So how do we support women's sports across the board? And again, thank you for your pioneering leadership, and Chevy and Lynn and Awvee for being part of this. We have so much to bring to the table, and so I hope that we can continue to see the sport flourish. Because it's exciting and it has so many positive ripple effects for whatever walks of life we take. And so that might be different for every single one of us, but let's take up what we can for our daughters, for our granddaughters, for any female relative, and help women have as much equity in athletics because it goes way beyond that sport. And I think it's just terrific where we are, but there's a lot more to do.
So I've really enjoyed this conversation. I started off feeling honored to have been invited to be part of this panel, and now I find myself feeling even more honored to have been asked to be part of the panel. So thank you, all of you, for that. So we haven't talked a lot tonight about women in STEM, studying STEM. And as you saw in the program for today, about 28% of the workforce in the STEM workforce is female. At UIC, about 40% of the students who graduate with a STEM degree are female. Yeah. And that kind of thing doesn't happen on accident, right? There has to be intentionality around it. And we have a whole series of things that we're doing to support our women in STEM. And what's very interesting is if you look at the STEM degrees, which are more, I would call them connective, like they're not sort of single subject, so biomedical engineering, right? Those are actually, we have more women than men. Statistics, which is very much you have to learn some mathematics, but then you maybe have to learn some social science or some biology or some engineering, whatever it is, those are connective. We actually have more women than men in those areas. And when you think about the workforce is not about a single discipline, your job is a single discipline. The workforce is about connections across all kinds of topics and areas and questions. And so the more we help women to understand that this, it's interesting to me, it's almost innate interest in the connective tissue that our young women seem to have, that is an incredible asset in the workforce, right? And it changes their persistence in the STEM discipline, it changes their level of interest in STEM disciplines, it changes what they imagine themselves capable of doing. All of that being said, we need to make sure that the workplace is a place where women feel valued and uplifted and recognized and seen, and that requires us to shift some of the practices in workplaces, whether it's around how do we accommodate women when they want to have children, how do we accommodate women who have children and want to go to their parent-teacher conferences, how do we accommodate the different communication styles that different people might bring to a conversation. I don't want to stereotype that women communicate like this and men communicate like that, because people always tell me that I communicate like a man, and I'm like, what? But we have to make sure that as higher education, and there are some institutions that do it better than others, and I'm very proud that UIC does it better than others. As institutions of higher education get better at bringing women into STEM, we need to make sure that companies get better at helping keep women in those STEM fields.
Well, thank you. That's both of you. Awvee, we've got like 1 more minute. So
1 minute. So as I mentioned to you guys, I started out in the W, really NBA Wizards, and then there was the Mystics. One thing that really troubled me when I started in the W, when I would go in, DC is very pretentious. Everybody wants to know what you do. Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
Who you can get a meeting with.
Yes, that is very true too. I would introduce myself, and they asked. I say, yeah, I work for the Washington Mystics, and people would say, what's the Mystics? Guys, I would almost expect it and blow it off, but it actually bothered me when women didn't know. So my words are to you is continue to speak and listen and watch and pay for women's sports, because that will change and will continue to check that trajectory of women's sports to continue to grow and grow and grow.
Well, thank you so much. You all have been very inspirational. And I think the last thing that we talked about on the phone, if you can see it, you can be it. And so it's not just us on the panel. It's all of you. And what are you going to do to make the change? So ask yourself. So I actually will ask every one of you to make a goal and reach that goal for the month of how you're going to inspire and mentor and change a young girl's life. And so we can build more, so we can have 100%. So thank you so much.